Hello and welcome everybody. You are getting Lost in Plot, the show where we focus on story first, but not exclusively, across the mediums of film, television, video games, really anything with a story. I'm Wade, that's my brother Jake, and today we have for you Venom, Let There Be Carnage.
Now let's go get lost in plot. For Venom, Let There Be Carnage, there's going to be, let there be spoilers too. Let there be spoilers, you've been warned. Now we're gonna get into it. So Tom Hardy returns to the big screen as the Lethal Protector. Venom, one of Marvel's greatest and most complex characters. What the f***? Directed by Andy Serkis, the film also stars Michelle Williams, Naomi Harris, and Woody Harrelson in the role of the villain Cletus Cassidy, Carnage. That's the official synopsis. It's perfect in a way because this film is about so little and doesn't take itself seriously, so you shouldn't take it seriously. Venom and Eddie Brock aren't getting along. Their odd couple routine is grating on each other until some slap-together plot points gives us an excuse to get Carnage on the screen so something can actually happen. They don't really explain how Cassidy becomes Carnage because they assume no one cares. He bit his hand. Just get on with it. So Cassidy is out to reunite with his lost love, Shriek, before he goes to kill Brock and Venom for reasons. Revenge for Brock, exposing his crimes and getting him sentenced to lethal injection, even though he's already in prison. It doesn't matter. You're not supposed to think about any of this. This comes at a time when Brock and Venom have decided to break up because their relationship is so chaotic. All these characters are looking for their perfect match, trying to reconcile differences that will otherwise tear them apart. My perfect match would have been a story and a script that is not so utterly shit. And that is Venom, Let There Be Carnage.
Oh, there wasn't a script to this movie. You think
there was a script? I can tell you who wrote it. Who wrote this? It was Kelly Marcel. Recognize that name?
Should I?
Kelly Marcel wrote Saving Mr. Banks.
Oh, I love that movie.
She wrote 50 Shades of Grey.
Not so much.
And she wrote the other Venom, the original Venom. And the story for Cruella.
Oh, not so much there either.
So Kelly Marcel is all over the place. The story credits for this one are Tom Hardy himself and Kelly Marcel. Now here's the thing. You call me jaded or cynical, but I thought that most studios, when they're attempting to adapt an IP to the screen, you want someone that is just passionate about that character. Someone who knows that IP in and out, who lives it and breathes it. Those are the kinds of people that you want to bring in to adapt it into the film and to the big screen. So you're telling me that Kelly Marcel, she's the world's biggest fan of Venom? She's the perfect person to adapt this? Or maybe you don't know what the fuck you're doing with the IP. You're clutching at straws. You throw her in there because she's had some success writing other movies and you don't know anyone else in town. So she trots this out. The first film gets a positive reaction for some of the Tom Hardy shtick that he has with Venom and their odd couple routine. So you lean real heavy into that one. And then you give us this. You give us this. Anything else before you break whatever this is?
No, let me break it. Remember that one kid from high school gym class? You know the one. The one who showed up every day wearing a leather jacket. He was badass, and it was an act of defiance. And you knew that guy wasn't going to climb any goddamn rope, and he sure as hell wasn't running the mile anytime soon. You looked at him, and you envied him. You figured there must be such depth and meaning behind his badassery, only to find out that he was failing out of school, and his father was probably beating him in the trailer park in which they lived. That is an apt description of Venom. Much like the kid in the leather jacket at gym class, Venom doesn't want to ever be accused of being a tryhard. It's not what it's about. Instead, it's going to cruise by on a facade of badassery and the sleight of hand trick, where you assume there's a lot more meaning and depth underneath there. Because it is Venom, a Marvel property that has a long history, most of it intertwined with Spider-Man. But here, it's basically just playtime. We've got an IP, these actors are going to have their way with it, and everyone else is the beneficiary of the entertainment.
This is a cartoon, essentially. I mean, you can look at it as like this is a cartoon.
They didn't have the balls to make the movie they wanted to make. And let me tell you what the movie is that they wanted to make. They wanted to make a romantic comedy.
That's exactly right.
They wanted to make...
That was the point. You took the words right out of my mouth, because I was saying this is a cartoon with romantic comedy plot beats overlaid on top of it.
And honestly, the romantic comedy that you were hinting at probably would have been better than this movie, because everything with Carnage sucks so hard. Unbelievable suckage. Everything with Carnage. They didn't get any aspect of his character right. He's not charismatic. He's not interesting. And the CGI is so pathetic and lame, it looks like you just vomited on the screen. It had me yearning for the days of Saturday morning cartoons when I could watch Captain Planet soar into action and have better choreographed and more exciting visual fight scenes than what you put on the screen.
Yeah.
I know, you think I'm over the top. I'm not. Your CGI sucked. It was cartoonish. It was quick cut, herky-jerky. It was always shot in the dark. It looked like ass. I'm sorry.
No, you're right. And here's the thing. I didn't like the first Venom film. Did you? You liked it, though?
I did, yeah. Because I liked the Tom Hardy shtick.
Yeah.
And they
the first
know...
time you see it. First time you see it.
The first time you see it. I liked it. When he's sitting in the lobster tank, I thought it was hysterical. In this movie, they know you liked it in the first one, so they lean hard in it, like you said, and boy, you're not liking it this time
They
around.
smash your face into it.
It is neither fresh, nor is it funny, and that's a problem.
And I gotta believe even the fanboys, like the big fans of this character and this property, really ought to feel just shit on by this, because they didn't even make any attempt to give you any kind of story or develop the world from the first film. They just rehashed everything, and they kept it even lighter, even sillier, even dumber than the first time around. And they took a character that I think a lot of people were excited to see interpreted into a film, and that's Carnage. His character has had some pretty big storylines in the comics before.
Maximum Carnage, yeah.
And he's kind of just this hollowed out caricature of, the serial killer that Woody Harrelson has done a million times before. So not a whole lot going on there either.
Guys, you know this was trash. These characters deserve so much better. A lot, but much more respect than what's being lavished upon them here. So let's get down to it in Dead or Alive and see what the final verdict will be. All right, we're back for Dead or Alive. I'm going to put you on the spot. What's your verdict on Venom, Let There Be Carnage?
Let There Be Carnage. Well, I'll tell you, I struggled with this because I knew we'd have to sit down and I'd have to try and talk about this from a story point of view. And god damn, that's not easy. That's not an easy thing to do.
Well, let's unpack it. Let's unpack the story point of view. Obviously, what we're starting with is Eddie and Venom trying to come to terms living together and failing and being pushed apart. Now, I thought what they do is basically say, well, Venom is the unbridled savagery, and Eddie is the restrained, domesticated form. And so maybe it's a battle against these two warring things where you kind of have to find the middle ground for both.
That's what I thought as well. That's
they
kind of
didn't
what
go
they
that
tell
way.
you in the trailer. That's not what they do. It's not what they do. This is absolutely a romantic comedy that's been grafted on top of this massive comic IP, because everything is about, they really are looking at the symbiotes, a symbiotic relationship where, you're living off each other in some kind of balance or harmony. And the problem is Eddie Brock and Venom are kind of clashing. Carnage is clashing with Cletus Cassidy because Cletus Cassidy wants to be with Shriek, who's got an ability that kind of shreds the symbiote right off his back. So, and then Eddie Brock wants, what's her name? Michelle Williams, who's with another guy. So there's a lot of just relationship problems, and it really is kind of a romantic comedy with a bunch of bad CGI just kind of slopped in there in the soup. But let's get to it. For me, this is a Dead film at a 3 out of 10. Only a 3 out of 10. There was a brief moment in here where I actually thought, I'm interested in what this film could have been. I know it's not going to be this, but if they could do this kind of film, it might be interesting. And that was when we first see Carnage breaking out of the prison and just slaughtering everyone. And I thought, this is pretty intense and pretty interesting. This could be an interesting way for the film to go. But the whole time I knew it wasn't going to go that way. It was going to get back to the romantic comedy.
You're right, and my favorite scene was not Carnage breaking out of the prison again. I didn't like any of the CGI action sequences. My favorite scene is when, it's really a dumb and contrived scene, but it's where Eddie Brock goes to meet Michelle Williams' character, and she first tells him that she's engaged.
At the restaurant.
Yeah, and how he handles that and how Venom handles it at the same time and how they're warring within themselves, I said, oh, this is the romantic comedy as they try to sabotage her, engagement and try to win her back, and you'll have hijinks because these two are so ill paired with one another. I feel like that was the only thing where they had anything bubbling, any chemistry working. So for me, my verdict on this is also dead. It's a 4 out of 10. I didn't enjoy this movie. It's worse than the first one, which is a real shame. Everybody really wanted to see Venom again. They really, really wanted to see Carnage again. You deserve better than this movie. This is not what you need, okay? This movie is when you're in a breakup and you decide that you're going to go to a pride event and you end up covered in glow rings and dropping the mic, because that's exactly what Venom does. He doesn't, when he's separated from Eddie Brock, he doesn't run off and start biting the heads off people like he's screaming to do all movie long. No, he goes to a pride event and he's covered in glow rings.
That's exactly right. And it strikes me as, those films where they're trying to adapt an IP and then they fail, and then they recast and they come back and they try again, and then they fail again, and then eventually they finally hit it, or maybe they just never hit it. So if you look at all the iterations of Spider-Man before it went back to Marvel Studios, this strikes me as, failed first attempt at this Venom character, and that they don't understand it, so they just brought in Kelly Marcel. She wrote 50 Shades of Grey and Saving Mr. Banks. She must know how to put a romantic comedy angle into Venom, and Tom Hardy can improv his way through it, and we'll make some money off that, people.
It'll probably make money.
It'll make money, but isn't that insulting?
It is, and quite frankly, I think audiences should demand more, particularly with these characters.
You can stop them by not seeing it.
You can, you can try to stop them. You can try. Now, Tom Hardy's game for this, and Tom Hardy, everybody knows he's an extremely talented actor who's portrayed many classic roles already. He strikes me as someone who's just throwing everything up against the wall, and everybody's too scared of him to tell him when he needs to be edited. It's like, hey, Tom, that wasn't so great or so funny. Maybe we'll cut that.
Because nobody knows what they're doing. Nobody knows what they're doing.
Nobody has an image. There's no goal. There's no vision.
It's all fumbling in the dark.
Yeah. And, the CGI, one of the worst offensive sequences is when Carnage is riding in a car with Shriek, and there's a helicopter that comes down in front of him and starts machine gunning him. And out of nowhere, just like a splooge of tentacle, goes up there and just smashes the helicopter, and it blows up in like a second. All while his hands are still on the wheel, and it barely phases him. When you start doing nonsense like that, it's just it's such a joke. Can you think of a lazier way to deal with that problem? Oh, there's a helicopter coming. Well, we'll just have the, tentacles slide.
And, it's brainless entertainment, and they kind of treat it that way. It's just like, no one really cares. Our audience who's paying money to see this, they don't really care about story. They don't really care about quality. They just want to see the character again, and, we'll give them some fun hijinks and a few jokes here and there, and, it's a day's work. Money in the bank.
Money in the bank. Disappointing, guys. What did you think about Venom, Let There Be Carnage? Do you have the same take that we do on this, that you're basically getting a garbage can thrown over your head and then they smack you down the stairs? Or were you thoroughly satisfied with everything that went on here? Perfectly all right if you were. Let us know in the comments down below. If you like this movie, please give us a thumbs. If you loved it, consider a subscription. Check us out on Twitter, and we will see you all back here on the next one.